Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast. I am Eric Kane alongside Rob Lewis, Austin Price, and Brent Hubbs. A big thank you, as always, to our friends Exterior Home Solutions for a free estimate. Go ahead and give them a call today at 865-524-5888 or visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. They've been local, they've been trusted since 1999. Got a lot on the docket here today, and again, as we know, and as Friday taught us, this thing can change a mile a minute in terms of roster movement. But we enter this phase of the offseason. There's players leaving the current roster, going to the transfer portal. Tennessee continues to evaluate players in the transfer portal. We got COVID seniors making announcements, and those will continue to trickle in as the week goes on. But Austin Price, at the time of this recording, and again, things can change, it looks like Tennessee obviously prioritizing heavily the tight end position in the transfer portal and then sprinkling in a wide receiver here, a safety here, and they're looking to some best available.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, the tight end spot is kind of where it's at. You're right. They're looking at the Brazel kid at Tulane. Expect him to get in here some time this week for a visit. Tennessee wants an outside receiver. We told you that here at Volquest for a few weeks now. Like they need somebody at 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and he's that. He's 6'3", a little less than 200 pounds, and long playmaker for the Green Wave this past year. And the tight end spot, you obviously had the States kid come in this weekend. Really impressed by Tennessee. Sees the opportunity, sees the closeness to his parents who live in Atlanta, and all that. But he's taking visits. So when you decide to take visits, you open yourself up to someone else coming in and swooping in, kind of taking your spot. Could that be Jordan Dingle, Brent Hubbs? Because Tennessee went and saw him on Monday. And, this is a situation where, Jordan Dingle is someone Tennessee is probably going to be heavily involved with, along with Oklahoma and Colorado. And, when you look at it, it's a lot of the same teams fighting over 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, and I think to borrow our friend Mike Strange's favorite line, Rob Lewis, bird in the hand. You better take a bird in the hand at the tight end position. First one to jump in is the first one to jump in. I think that's how you have to view it. You may have them prioritized on who you like, but unless you have a great divide separation between 1 and 2, if it's 1A and 1B, first one to jump in jumps in, because you have to answer that question in the transfer portal at that position.
Yeah, I would think that you go into it, not so much as having a strict pecking order, but as having tiers of guys. So here's the two or three guys in tier A. Here's 2 or 3 guys in tier B. And the minute somebody in tier A says that they're ready to go, you're right. Needs being what they are, you have to grab them. Every year it won't be like that, but right now, everybody can see just how what a priority it is to add bodies there, to add capable bodies. And so it's I would say the first one of those guys that you have deemed is good enough to have an offer, you take.
Here's the thing about Dingle. The guy started multiple years, played a lot of football in the SEC. He knows the league. When they've actually thrown the ball to him, he's been productive, Hubs. They just don't throw the football a whole lot up there because of the offense they run. And I think that's the reason why he's decided to go in the portal and find a new home. But he started a lot of football in this league against this competition. And I think that is a feather in his cap. Not to say that Holden Stays hasn't, played, some solid football for Notre Dame, because he has. But I think when you have a ton of starts under your belt, I think that is an extra feather in your cap. And Rob's right. I think it boils down to kind of tiers, and I would put those 2 at the top of tier 1.
Well, tell us about Bauer Sharp then. Kind of an interesting prospect, FCS level, southeastern Louisiana, and he was a quarterback turned tight end. If the first 2 guys in Dingle and Stays are 1A, 1B, how far down the line is Sharp?
Well, I think that he would be kind of that, right below them. He's coming in this weekend. Kid's been productive. They've used him in some Wildcat. They've used him obviously as a pass catcher at Southeast Louisiana. And, honestly, if Tennessee could get Dingle and Sharp, or Stays and Sharp, to go along with Ethan Davis, I think they'd love to do that. I think you'd love to add 2 if you can. I just know that, that's going to be hard because all these players want to play, and I think that's kind of the tough spot that Tennessee's in. It's why you've in a perfect world, you need a high school kid or two to go with the transfer, to go with Ethan Davis, and all of a sudden your room's at 4, plus Emmanuel Okoye, who is continuing to try to grow his game, and understand what football is all about. So in a perfect world, you need a couple out of the high school ranks. Right now they have 0, and I see continuing to swing at guys like Michael Smith, the Rodriguez kid who's committed to Michigan, and then obviously the young man out of California, Harrison. And so I just, again, can they land a high school kid to go with a transfer? I think that they're just trying to get bodies in that room at this point, because right now, again, I'm making the joke, it's Ethan Davis and Ethan Davis, and I only say that because Emmanuel Okoye is just nowhere ready to find the football.
Yeah, and the thing you got too is you don't have a high school kid slated to visit. Okay, the Smith kid's talked about coming in for a bunch of times. He's not come in. We'll see if any of those high school kids come in this last weekend. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case right now, which means you're probably out of the high school chase. At this point, it doesn't feel like somebody's going to hang around till February. I don't know that you're just going to go reaching on a high school kid from a guy, and get a guy like you got in Okoye who's so far away that you're talking a couple of years before they're even in a position to even compete for an opportunity. The one interesting thing, AP, about the tight end transfer portal timeline is it sounds like State's going to do something fairly quick, even though he's taking a couple more visits. He wants to get done fairly quick. I think you're going to have a good idea where you are with Dingle after you visited with him on Monday. And then you've got the kid from Southeast Louisiana coming in. So from a timing standpoint, it doesn't appear to be that it's set up horrible for Tennessee. Like one of your top tier guys is necessarily going to hold out till past Christmas or anything like that and put you in a really tough spot in terms of decision making there. It feels like it may fall in kind of line the way that you would like in terms of how your tiers appear to be set right now.
Correct. That's right. You'd love to kind of see this thing kind of happen sooner rather than later. I mean, Dingle, was talking about Colorado trip, Oklahoma trip, and then Tennessee on the weekend. We'll see if that happens, or is he ready to get things done sooner? And then, obviously stays at Washington right now. He wraps up his visit later today, and then we'll be at Oklahoma this weekend. So again, same group of teams fighting over the same kind of, group of tight ends. The kid from Southeast Louisiana is going to go out to Utah, who is hosting Carson Ryan from UCLA. So again, Utah is kind of dangling around the same group of tight ends. Tennessee tried to get in play with Carson Ryan, but it looks like he'll stay on the West Coast.
Well, we spoke on this podcast last week about how it might not be the smartest thing to try to bring in 2 transfer portal tight ends because they both want to play. What type of message does that send to Ethan Davis? With the flip of Jonathan Eccles to USF, Brent, I mean, that – I feel like no matter what, you still want to try to get, as y'all were talking on just there, a high school body, but you just got to get 2 bodies, right? I mean, this changes some things.
Well, I think, you're going to take 2 if you can get 2. The question is, from a standpoint of a transfer, are there 2 guys who would want to come? I have a hard time seeing Stace and Dingle at the same school because they want to get on the field and they want to play. And I know people play multiple tight ends, but it doesn't feel like that would be the case. Now, could you get Dingle or Stace and the kid from Southeast Louisiana? I mean, maybe, that's something that, you would potentially see there. You would prefer in the dream world, as Austin mentioned, to have a high school kid. I don't see a high school kid that's realistic right now. I mean, Cole Harrison, they visited out in California, but he's not made a trip, and neither has Michael Smith.
No, 100%. They all talk about it, but until they do, as Hub said, it's hard to view as realistic. Now, he's not a high school kid, but similar in age is, Sean Davion Bradley, in my opinion, is going to get a look at tight end. So that could end up being your body that moves over to give you an extra body at tight end. And again, he played it in high school, played a lot, honestly, played more high school offense than he did high school defense. So probably feels a little more comfortable on that side of the ball. Minus the fact that learning how to block, and seal the edge in the SEC is a little different than out there in high school ball. And,
just a smidge.
His side of near Kansas City.
All right, let's talk about a guy that was on campus here, AP, over the weekend. From the high school ranks, Jaron Sensabaugh came in for an official visit, had a lot of good things to say when leaving Tennessee. Of course, Missouri's in that one as well. Former Vanderbilt commitments. He's a take for Tennessee. How realistic is Jaron Sensabaugh?
Well, he's very realistic. He's got the one visit left to Missouri this weekend. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Missouri's the team that was in on him early. Is that going to be the message? Hey, we were in on you. Tennessee didn't offer you till late in the game, blah, 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 blah. And does that weigh on him? Is that something that, it resonates and all of a sudden he kind of, wants to go that direction? Right now, I would tell you Tennessee's the team to beat for Jaron Sensabaugh. But again, he's going to take this visit. Much like Holden Stays, when you take visits, things can happen, things can change for you, against you. That's just kind of where you're at. And so, Sensabaugh will take this trip. But right now, as we said here on the 12th, Tuesday, the 12th of December, it definitely feels like they are the team to beat.
You look at the current roster, Rob, and you've got a couple of guys who have left via the transfer portal on Tennessee's roster. A lot in the defensive backfield. We talked about Jack Luttrell. You have Brandon Turnage. You've got Warren Burrell, who committed to Georgia Tech. You had Deshaun Rucker that went in on Monday, and a couple more that I'm not mentioning. Looks like Tennessee is, at least in terms of seeing players leave the roster, that cornerback position, it's getting a little lighter now. Thus, Ricky Gibson, Christian Conyer, Jordan Matthews, some of these young guys that a lot of times we thought needed to get a little bit more playing time to begin with are going to have that playing time not only next year, but over the next couple of weeks in these bowl practices.
Yeah, the guys that everybody's going to see are going to get seen now by default. If you just look at it on paper, it looks like Tennessee lost a lot, but didn't lose a lot in terms of guys who were huge factors. And so that's suddenly become, I think, one of the more interesting wrinkles of bowl practice. Jordan Matthews is a guy that every Tennessee fan was excited about back when August started and kind of never saw. Ricky Gibson, I think we did see enough to want to see more, and now you would think just by sheer numbers he's going to get a chance in the bowl game, and it's going to I would imagine going to be a very good month for those guys, and also going to be a very good month for the staff to for evaluation purposes.
Yeah, I think that cornerback spot, AP, is fascinating for the bowl game because what's Gabe Judy-Lally going to do?
I think he will play.
He's been battling a shoulder. Do you think he'll go ahead and play?
I do think he'll play, yes.
Okay, so then that would put him and Ricky Gibson as your two corners, and then your rotational guys would be, I guess, Conyer and Jordan Matthews, right?
Yeah,
at this point, the question is, if for some reason Gabe doesn't go, then you're probably looking at starting a guy at corner who's played less than 10 snaps this year at the cornerback position in the bowl game.
Luckily, I was not very good on offense, so yeah, you might get a bust or two because I'm a veteran, but athletically, Tennessee should still be in really good shape. Honestly, probably be more athletic at the corner spot than they've been all year. Again, that doesn't mean success because you still have to mentally know where to go and what to read. But I do think that wouldn't be a bad thing, man. I think that some of these kids need to be forced out there and kind of sink or swim, throw them in the deep end and make them swim. Hubs like you can't keep putting the swimmers on the puddle jumpers, like Mildred Queen, who taught my kids how to swim, and you guys have seen the videos. There is no puddle jumpers. Okay, all that does is make you stand up straight, and then you don't put your head down in the water when you swim. Push them in the pool and let them go.
That's how we learned in Corrigan. Just throw them in the deep end.
You did it in the lake, Hubs. You threw them in the lake where they got actually drowned.
No, come on now. But yeah, it is. And it is going to be fascinating to see. And I think that's, Rob, what bowl games are becoming about. It is an exhibition game for young players in a lot of ways. And everybody focuses on the quarterback position, but it's not just there. It's going to be at other places because of the defections you have around the country in the transfer portal with these guys. It's going to force some young guys onto the field and will make for some certainly auditions for sure. So we'll have to see what that looks like and go from there.
I got to say, I don't hate it. It adds a little bit of intrigue to, I don't want to, denigrate the bowl games, but if you're playing in one of these lower tier bowls, it's not going to make or break your season. It does, it adds a little, pop to what you're looking for. It adds a little interest. I'm certainly interested to see it. However, I think you're right. I think it is fascinating. You go from you're looking at maybe starting a kid that didn't get on the field against Austin Peay. and now and AP, to your point, it's what a great low pressure offense to get your feet wet against, in college for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Well, but I think if you're a coach, and when you look at it big picture, Eric, I mean, I think if you're a coach out there and they're a program deal, it is a good thing overall. Now, again, you don't want to just tell your seniors, "Hey, goodbye, you're done. We're not interested in you." But how many more eyeballs would be on this game if Joe Milton doesn't play?
Oh yeah.
How much more intrigue is there from people around the country and Tennessee fans if you know that Nico is going to play a bunch of snaps in this game?
A lot more.
Now that's the extreme because it's a quarterback position. But for the diehard fan, they want to see what Ricky Gibson can do in an entire game, or see what Jordan Matthews looks like out there, or see what Cam Seldon looks like at the running back position. I mean, why not? I mean, to me, that's how you keep the intrigue of a bowl game out there for your fan base when you're not in the playoff, or you're not playing in a rivalry game or a marquee matchup game. No offense to Iowa, but I mean, I think Iowa fans are the same way. They want to see some of their young guys if they've got young guys out there to play.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you wish these guys that are going to the transfer portal all the best of luck, but I mean, Deshaun Rucker's not going to help you out next year. Brandon Turner is not going to help you out next year. You got some of these guys that are just kind of slowing down the progress of some of these other young guys that could have been seeing some snaps as the years gone along potentially, and now you're going to get those. And I do think for the diehards it'll be a lot more intriguing. And you're right. I mean, it was an extreme, but I mean, Joe Milton, depending on what he wants to do, if Nico were to play in this football game, not just Tennessee fans, but college football fans would be tuning in. So, and it's a good thing. Like, you want to win this game. You want to win this game for sure. But, I mean, as Rob just pointed out, I mean, this game has no bearing on what you did over the season or what's to come in 2024. It's just not. I don't want to call it just an exhibition game because I think it does mean something. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean a whole lot, if that makes sense. So that kind of brings me into this next transition, Brent.
Hold on a minute. I got my point to make here, Hainer. All right.
Oh, sorry, I haven't heard you talk in a couple of minutes.
Gabe Judy Lally, I think he will play. But let's say he doesn't play. Ricky Gibson, no starts. Let's say it's Conyers, no starts. Jordan Thomas at the star. What's he got? 1 start, 2 starts. Turn time, couple starts. But the average starts for the secondary, baby, is still 77 due to Jalen McCullough. All right, now continue on.
Really good point. I'm glad we got that one in there. Brent, as the week goes on, would expect that these seniors who want to announce, hey, I'm going to come back and play another year, I'm going to play in the bowl game, all that type of stuff, will start trickling in because, again, I mean, you're in bowl practices now for Iowa, and this coaching staff needs to know who's going to be playing and who's not going to be playing.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be more about, who's opting out. I think we got a good idea of who's coming back. Now, there may be some of those going to run it back one more year or one last ride or, I mean, I'm sure that there's some people at Tennessee who want some of those guys to post those things because it gives you a little buzz back there. But the story is more about who is going to opt out and not play in this game. And obviously that focal point has been around Joe Milton. Joe Milton continues to work out with this team. To me, the indication there would seem that he is going to play in this game, but we don't know that for sure. Jalen Wright, we don't expect to play in this game. I'm not sure where the benefit of it is for him. I wondered about Gabe Judy Lally, but Austin, you feel pretty confident that he's going to play in this game. And then, it's
Jabari Small's not going to play in this game.
Yeah, Small's not going to play.
Sampson and Cam Seldon and Khalifa.
Yeah, and then you've got a couple guys who are dealing with some injuries that are probably not going to play, that maybe have decisions to make. But they're not going to play due to injury. So, I think you'll have a really good finalized feel of that by Friday, because once you get to Friday, it does become all about Iowa for the course of the next couple of weeks. And I think if that coaching staff, I mean, anybody who's on the fence, you're going from working out on fundamentals to starting a game plan, and you got to know who you're going to game plan for. So I think we'll have a full gauge of who's not going to play in this deal by Friday. I think we got a pretty good idea on who's coming back out of those COVID seniors. Tamarion McDonald is a guy that we'll wait and see what happens. It will not shock me at all if he is not back with this team. But outside of that, AP, I mean, you kind of feel like everything seems to be pretty settled, right? In terms of those COVID seniors?
If you're a GQ member, they are.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels that way. The only one I would tell you that you have to just because I think he's going to be back, but you just don't know is Gerald Mincey. It just that one's one that until until it rubber meets the road, like I don't think you can say for certain. Again, I think he will be back, and the question is if he's back, what's his availability for the bowl game, right? Like he's had that kind of chronic knee all year long. Like I think John Campbell will be good for the bowl game. Ollie Lane, obviously, Cooper Mays will be good for the bowl game, and then it'll be Jackson Lampley at right guard, who's a right tackle for the bowl game. Will it be Dane Davis, who has been very, very functional and played solid football here at the back end of the year, or will it be Gerald Mincey making his return from injury?
We'll continue to track it all at Volquest.com. Transfer portal, COVID seniors, Iowa bowl prep, traditional recruiting, all that and more by the minute over at Volquest.com. We're going to talk Tennessee hoops, a big win over Illinois this past weekend. What's this mean moving forward? That coming up here on the Volquest podcast. I do want to tell you about our friends over at Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying your next tickets to the next big event. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, but not just sports. It's music, it's theater, it's comedy, all those shows in your area, like Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center. You got tons of shows, tons of concerts, obviously basketball, Lindsey Nelson Stadium this upcoming spring for baseball, Neyland Stadium next year for football. You can get on and buy your holiday tickets as well. Christmas right around the corner. Buy tickets, buy passes, all that type of stuff over at Gametime. Gametime's got the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection as well, so they have your back. And what the lowest price guarantee is, if you buy a ticket with Gametime and you find a ticket cheaper in the same section, they're going to credit you 110% of that price. Not a lot of places are out there that'll do that for you, but Gametime will. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code VOLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code VOLS, VOLS, for $20 off your purchase today. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So a big shout out to Gametime as always. And I want to remind you guys about Factor. A lot of you guys have been asking about Factor on the message board over the last week. So here's another reminder about Factor for you today. It's holiday season. You might be looking for something nutritious, but something convenient to keep you energized on those jam-packed days. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service, and you can fuel up for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You're going to save time. You're going to eat well. You're going to stay on track with a healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos and your normal job schedule, your 9 to 5s. Skip the stress of meal preparing with the holidays with Factor. Choose from 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never-frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal performance, all delivered right to your door in less than 2 minutes. Again, guys, they delivered some to me, put them in the fridge for a week. I had lunch ready to go. Take it out of the package, put it in there, 2 minutes. Again, it's not frozen. Take it out, eat it, throw it away. It was so simple, so good as well. And again, it's good for you. It's good for you and something that you can take part in throughout your busy, busy days. So how do you take part of this? All right, go to factormeals.com/VQ50. That's factormeals.com/VQ50. That promo code again, it is VQ50 for 50% off. Promo code VQ50 at factormeals.com/VQ50. That is Factor Meals. So big thanks to Gametime, a big thanks to Factor, and as always, a big time shout out and thank you to our friends, Exterior Home Solutions.
It's one of those phone calls that you hate to get from your kids. Hey, Dad, a tree fell on my house. Well, we got that call a couple of weeks back from our daughter at her house here, and the first call that I made was to Exterior Home Solutions. The peace of mind that they gave me and us as a family when they came out here and came up with a plan, got us connected with the right people, is absolutely priceless. Use the same people that I use. In that time of need, Exterior Home Solutions.
Exterior Home Solutions, big thank you to them as always. ExteriorHomeSolutions.com, a free estimate today. Give them a look if you have the need. All right, that phone number is well on the screen, 865-524-5888. Again, that's ExteriorHomeSolutions.com. We welcome back in the crew, Rob Lewis, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs. Tennessee basketball got a much-needed win, Rob Lewis, over the weekend. Power their way to an 86-79 win over Illinois. Santiago Vescovi showed out. Jonas Adu continues his good play of late. And, of course, Dalton Connect is doing what Dalton Connect does.
Yeah, I thought a really good win. I mean, we'll see how it turns out as the season goes on. Excuse me, as the season goes on. But I think that's a good Illinois basketball team that will be a factor in the Big Ten. And for Tennessee, you can talk about playing a great schedule and what that does for you in November, but you need to win some games. And I thought that was really good for the team just to get in the win column against a quality opponent like that. And I thought they were really good in the second half on both ends of the floor. I mean, I thought that was by far their most impressive 20 minutes of the season.
Rob, for me, I mean, greater importance. Vescovi finding the stroke. Josiah-Jordan James having 3 consecutive games with some consistency here. Are the back-to-back double-digit games, now 3 straight double-digit games from Jonas Aidoo. What's the biggest development for this basketball team?
Oh, I think it's Jonas Aidoo for sure. I mean, with Santi, that one just doesn't trouble me very much. I mean, you're talking about a fifth-year guy that's been an all-conference player. I mean, he may have to have a different role in this team, and he may still be figuring that out. But he's just been too good for too long. He'll figure it out. What Jonas is doing is just something he's never done before. We've seen Santi play well. We've seen Josiah play well. We've never seen Jonas be this assertive, offensively. And I applaud Coach Barnes because he's gone out of his way to really, give him confidence and talk about, how much potential he sees there for Jonas and, how Jonas, sells himself short. So, I mean, I think what you're seeing on the court from Jonas is an extension of what he's hearing from Coach Barnes on the practice floor and in the film room. About what his head coach feels his talent is. I mean, we're 23 shot attempts for Jonas in 2 games. That's big time. I mean, that's a lot of evidence that he's really drinking the Kool-Aid that his coach is pouring for him, because that's 23 shots in 2 games for that kid is out of character.
Rob, do you like the post from a standpoint of I love that Aidoo, tall, long, obviously alters a lot of shots at the rim. And then when they go to Tobey, he's kind of a different body type, right? He's more of a banger, more thick. I mean, I like that they're kind of diverse. Do you like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they really complement each other well. And I mean, and you're not going to see it a lot this year, but in the second half, they played them together for longer stretches than they had. And again, they are so different that it's they do complement each other well. And Jonas just, and Tobey too, to a different extent. But Jonas just brings something that nobody else on the team comes close to bringing with his length, on the defensive end. And, we're seeing more and more he's finding ways to make use of that on the offensive end. So Hubbard, that's a long-winded answer to the question. I think what you're seeing from Jonas is huge for this team. I mean, just enormous, because it's been Fulkerson had his moments, but not since Grant, 4 or 5 years ago. They just been able to dump it inside and feel good about, either, getting a bucket or getting a foul or at least moving the defense enough to where you created an advantage somewhere else. And again, 3 games, but 3 games or at least 2 games against really good competition in Illinois and UNC, where Jonas, I think, has shown that maybe he's turning the corner.
Is that you think it's just because Barnes has empowered him publicly, or do you think the locker room has said, "Hey, we got to have you"? Do you think some people around Jonas? I mean, you mentioned it's not just the scoring; it's the assertiveness on offense that we haven't seen. Now, I understand he stayed out of foul trouble against Illinois, which is a big deal. He's got to do that in order to get the shots and to do the things offensively. But what do you equate the aggressiveness to out of Jonas? Do you think it's really just the empowerment of Rick Barnes?
Oh yeah, but not. I would say publicly has very little to do with it. I would say sitting next to him on an airplane for 10 hours on the way home from Hawaii and having Coach say, "Hey, watch what Zach. You can do what Zach Edey's doing," or "Hey, Jonas, you can do what Hunter Dickinson's doing. Watch what you did on this play right here." Same, in the film room, on the practice floor. I just think, people see Coach and. And he can get on kids. He does. I mean, and he doesn't hide from it, and think that he can be tough on guys. They don't see the other side, man. He can be 100 miles, in the opposite direction on the practice floor, in film room, and I think that's where, and I think that's really resonated with Jonas, and I think that's what you're seeing now. If Coach was telling him all that, and he hadn't just gone out, and had had a career high and follow that up, with another double-digit game, then it'd be falling. It wouldn't be the same. But he's seeing the results, and I think you look at the schedule in December, and he's going to have a lot of chances to build that confidence before SEC play.
Rob, we mentioned his name a little earlier, but I mean, it's no doubt about it, man. I mean, Rick Barnes has been publicly, pretty much calling out Santiago Vescovi, challenging him the last couple of weeks. It feels like it's not been kumbaya between the two. And Dalton Connect's the guy on this team, is what it is. But how important is it to get Santi to be as involved as he was the other day and being a huge focal point for this team? Doesn't have to be the guy, but he's got to be a guy and a very important guy. To me, it looked like he responded the right way. And I mean, for Sakai, he looked like the old Sakai the other day for stretches, points at times, both offensively and defensively.
I mean, Tennessee is going to win a ton of games if Santi, plays like he did in November. Maybe even win the SEC, but they're not going to, they're probably not going to play in the second weekend in March, and they're definitely not, reaching the promised land and going to a Final Four unless Santi is the old Santi. And I thought you had to be encouraged by what you saw on Saturday, and it wasn't just the 12 points or the fact that he was 4-7 from the floor. It was the kind of plays he made. I mean, it was a really physical basketball game. 6'3" Santi was, grabbed 9 rebounds. He was a leading rebounder in the game. He had a big three, a tough three, coming off a screen in the quarter in the final 10 minutes that kind of changed the complexion of the game. I think made it an 8 or 9 point game. Hadn't put it away, but really gave Tennessee some cushion. Made a couple of free throws late. I felt like it was his best of the season by far. And again, not just because of the box score, but when the plays were made and the type of plays they were, at the stages of the game they came.
Rob, speaking of Santi and Ziegler, were you shocked that Tennessee struggled to get the ball up the floor against that press?
Yes.
I was stunned. I was like, they can't get the ball to the floor.
I was almost, at the end of games, and Eric, I know you're the same way with baseball. I'm trying like crazy to get, 4 quick takes done and, getting ready to post. I kept looking up. I was like, man, did they just turn it over again? Did they just turn it over again? This is, it never felt like they were in danger of losing, but they did look sloppy. And as you say, AP, having, 12 years of starting experience in the backcourt on the floor at the same time, made that a little surprising, but it also makes me think it's not, going to be a long-term, problem. And, it's going to be tough to make a living pressing, Santi and Zakai on this team.
Rob, you mentioned the schedule in December and what lies ahead, the opportunities for Jonas to put up some numbers and other guys to put up numbers. Rick Barnes' bench was short against Illinois. What do you think is the big picture staff plan for bench growth, development? Obviously winning the games, I know that, but when you look at the schedule, they're going to be heavy favorites in a lot of these games here the next couple of weeks. What do you think is their plan? What is the strategy for some of those young guys in terms of development, and how deep does this bench need to go for Rick Barnes to make it through the grind of the SEC to get to March?
I think your priority is just figuring out which one of the freshman bigs can help you. I mean, you're going to have one of them at some point in time. If not, ideally, you'd feel good about playing both of them if you had to. But really, you got to figure out if JP or Cade can play 6 to 8 minutes a night routinely, and what the pecking order is. I mean, it's a good problem to have if that's one of your big problems here in December. But I do think, figuring out who your third post guy is on nights when, we've seen Tobe is going to be in foul trouble. Jonas is going to be in foul trouble some nights. You're going to need one of the youngsters to give you some minutes. They don't have to be a star, but they've got to, like JP came in the first half in Hawaii against Purdue and really gave Tennessee some tough minutes. And, I think that with any young kid, it's consistency. I mean, he can do it. Cade can do it. But just, as you saw on Saturday, coach is not going to let him coast. I mean, he was just pretty point blank. He's like, I could have told you Friday they weren't going to play. Just the way practice had been going. So I think, figuring out which one of those two kids, if, both ideally, but figuring out which one of the young posts is going to be kind of your third guy on nights when you need him. And then really on the perimeter, I don't know that they need anything. I mean, if Freddie Dillon is a guy that can play 18 minutes a game or 8 to 10 minutes a game, and be an offensive spark off the bench, that's a boost. Cam Carr, I mean, every time Coach Barnes talks about him, he talks about his potential, how hard he works, all that. But I just, I don't know that I see a role for him. So, to me, it's the Estrella and Phillips, and then maybe Freddie to a lesser extent. But man, that's a luxury, and that says a lot about Tennessee's perimeter depth. If you're talking about the highest rated recruit in your signing class, it being not that big of a deal if he gets on the floor this year.
Last one for me, Rob. I do want to ask, as you enter the kind of the stretch Brent was talking about, Georgia Southern tonight, got NC State this weekend. Then you got a couple other games before you get into SEC play at the turn of the year with Ole Miss. It's a work in progress, certainly not a finished product, and everything's still being shaken out. But from what you've seen from Tennessee so far, do you have anything change on your end in terms of how good you think Tennessee can be in this conference? In this region, and ultimately, what you think Tennessee could accomplish down the line when you head towards March.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk crazy, but they could be better than I thought they could be. And
Okay.
Maybe I didn't, and I probably wasn't as high on them as some people early in the season. I mean, I would, a lot of the Hawaii, comments we heard in Hawaii were Final Four, and even though Tennessee lost, their three biggest games in November. I think that they can be better in March, and the biggest reason is Dalton is better than I even thought he was going to be. He just is. I mean, in AP, it's the same way in football. You never know what to make of all the buzz you hear this summer. You just don't know. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, Jalen Wright got the buzz. He turned out to be what he was. Dante Thornton got the buzz. Turned out, not.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. We've all heard it, 1,000 times. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But Connect is just better, way better than I thought he was, and he's the reason I think Tennessee can go further in March. Now, there's a lot of other ifs. Santi's got to be what we saw Saturday. Jonas has got to be what we've seen the past couple of weeks. Josiah's got to be, the wingman we've seen. But man, Hubbard, I know you love basketball. To me, Dalton is the first guy Tennessee's had since Grant Williams walked out of here that they can really run offense through. They don't have to run, just their stuff. I mean, they can call a play for a guy and feel pretty good that he's going to get to the line, or at the very least going to get a really good shot.
Yeah, and no offense, Grant. I mean, I think it's different because Dalton can take it, and I know he over dribbles sometimes, and that gets him into some turnover issues, but he can literally take it from anywhere on the floor and has a chance to get to the rim. Grant had to have a little help to get started. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, right? I mean, if it was the three-point shot, it was a trailing three in the secondary break, but there wasn't a ton of straight line drive to the rim with Grant Williams from the top of the key. Connect can do anything. You're right. Grant's the guy that they would say, hey, everything's going through Grant here offensively. He's going to create for us to a degree, but Dalton creates differently than Grant does. I don't think Rick Barnes had a guy like this since he was at Texas. He's not had anybody at Tennessee where you just say, hey, we're going to clear out one side of the floor and let him go to work, because he can back a guy down. He can pull up on him or whatever. He's different than anybody he's had recently at Tennessee. And
you saw that, I thought, last thing for me on that, you saw that emphatically in the opening of the second half against Illinois. I mean, Tennessee wasn't like Tennessee had been bad. They were down 2, but they fed Dalton for the first, I don't know how, first 6 or 7 minutes of the second half. He scores 13 points in the first 6 minutes and 17 seconds. Hits a three, gets to the rim, and gets fouled. 3-point play, draws another foul on the low block, hits both foul shots. I mean, he's a dude, man. And like I said, I thought he would be good. He is better than I thought.
And we'll continue to track Dalton Connect, the rest of the Tennessee basketball team. Again, game tonight at the Food City Center, Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center, Georgia Southern. That'll be at 7 o'clock. NC State this weekend, and then a couple more games before you flip the calendar into SEC play at the turn of the new year. Also, everything you need to know, the latest in roster management for Tennessee football, transfer portal defectors, names to be looking for in the transfer portal who could be a part of Tennessee's roster in 2024, COVID seniors, and bowl preparation, the Citrus Bowl for Iowa. All that and more is at Volquest.com. For Austin Price, Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. A big thank you to our friends Exterior Home Solutions for making this coverage possible. 865-524-5888 or visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Volquest podcast.